You are probably aware that I do a lot of teaching online, and that's all good, of course. If it weren't for this video chat technology, I would have had great difficulty learning to play myself. There simply was no Shakuhachi teacher within a few hours of travel from where I live in Scotland. So in my world, online lessons are a great thing. But it also means that when I'm teaching, I'm usually sitting at my desk in front of the computer, and my posture is not very good when I'm teaching like this. The desk is in front of me, and often there is a score on it, and this means I'm often looking down and hunching over a bit. For playing shakuhachi, that is not a good posture, and I recently noticed that some online students have a similar posture, maybe unconsciously imitating me. Actually, when I was starting out, I found my own lessons quite challenging because I could not find a good playing position for the same reasons. But you may ask, what is the problem with a bad posture? Well, there are two main issues. One, the posture has an impact on your playing, and it's difficult to play well with a bad posture. And two, a bad posture, especially one with lots of tension, can lead to health issues if you play a lot. In this video, I will go into some detail, but please keep in mind that you don't need to get fussy about a correct posture. Just make sure that you take care of these two main points. One, you have to be able to breathe without any obstruction. And two, don't do anything that creates tension in the muscles. And you could add a minor third. You should be able to move freely without any restrictions. It helps keeping you relaxed and it supports musical expression. So let's go over the basics. In terms of posture, playing shakuhachi is not really very different from playing other instruments, especially wind instruments. You can play standing, sitting, or kneeling. It's not really possible to play when lying down. I mean, of course it's possible, but it's not really recommended. It's very awkward doing it like that. The main factor that will allow you to breathe freely and have a relaxed upper body, and this really is the one thing you should take from this video, focus on the position of your hips. They should be tilted forward a bit, so they should not be straight or tilted backwards. Okay, so like this, not like this, or like this. I always like to say that from the hips up, there should not be really any difference in your posture when it comes to playing. In other words, it should make no difference if you stand, sit, or kneel. The slight tilt of the hips will straighten your lower back a bit, and with this, your diaphragm can move freely. The diaphragm is a large muscle that sits between your thoracic cavity, which contains the heart and lungs, so this upper body bit here, and the abdominal cavity, where you have your stomach and your intestines. When the diaphragm contracts, the thoracic cavity expands and air streams into the lungs, so like this. When it relaxes, you breathe out. In addition to the diaphragm, you also use the intercostal muscles to breathe, which are the muscles between your ribs. Try for yourself. Put a hand on your belly and feel how it moves up and down when you breathe. This is the diaphragm working. Now put a hand on your rib cage and just use these muscles here to get air in and out. You will notice that breathing like this is very shallow, meaning you don't get a lot of air in and out. So if you breathe like this when playing a wind instrument, you have not a lot of air available. Or put the other way around, you should be focusing on using your diaphragm for breathing. There's also a psychological side to this, but this would get us off topic quite a bit. So let me just say this, and I'm dramatically oversimplifying things here. The diaphragmatic breathing is relaxing, whereas intercostal breathing is shallow, fatiguing, and stressful. Before we look at everything in detail, let's quickly talk about the diaphragm. In the West, when we think and talk about breathing, we usually talk about the diaphragm. But in the context of traditional Japanese arts, you may have come across the terms hara or tanden. Hara has many meanings in Japanese. Its main meaning is actually belly or stomach, but it also has a lot of metaphorical uses like one's mind, one's real intention, one's true motive, courage, nerve, willpower, or also simply feelings or emotions. So again, oversimplifying things, you can say that in this view, a person's spirit is in the hara, whereas in the West, we would usually locate it in the head or in the heart. So if you adopt the Japanese view, breathing into the hara is already a spiritual exercise. The other term, tanden or kikai tanden, is more of a technical term, which denotes a point about 2 inches or 2 finger widths below your navel, so about here. And it's often described as your energetic core or center, and there are whole philosophies and what in English these days you would call Weltanschauungen built around it. Okay, but for the issue of posture, it does not really make much of a difference which term you use. Just use whichever word or concept works best for you. Diaphragm, hara, tanden, it does not really make a difference. Now let's go through the 3 options I mentioned above. Personally, I prefer to stand when playing shakuhachi. When standing in a natural relaxed position, the hips will already be slightly tilted forwards, and that's probably why many people like to stand. So, just standing upright, like this. Have the feet flat on the ground and put one foot slightly forward. This provides a very stable base, so you can move around a bit. It does not really matter which foot you put forward. You can use the small taiko stance, which is something like this. This uses the left foot. I use this mainly for playing shinobue. So, if I have my shinobue, this is a very comfortable position for playing shinobue. But for shakuhachi, which is a somewhat bigger instrument, so if I take my shakuhachi, I find this position here too upright, and it limits my movements too much. So when playing shakuhachi, my stance is a bit wider. And here I actually follow usually my teacher's example and put the right foot forward. Maybe with longer flutes, the body is a bit straighter. So this is the normal shakuhachi, 1.8 shakuhachi. If I take a long shakuhachi, yeah, maybe like this is a bit more comfortable than playing like this. I don't know. You have to make up your own mind and find your own way. So, if you have the left foot forward, the right foot forward, it doesn't really make much of a difference. Then the next thing is make sure that the knees are not locked. So you don't want to have straight legs like this, but you want to be loose in the knees. The shoulders are above the hips, so above the hips, and you can imagine that you're pulling yourself up on an imaginary string at the top of your head, and then relax a bit. Remember, don't create any tension. If you really pull yourself up like this and you try to play like this, this is quite stiff, okay? So just relax a bit, and then it's a bit easier. The shoulders should also be relaxed and not pulled up. It's easy to pull them up when you lift the elbows, like you usually do for playing shakuhachi. Okay? The head should look straight ahead, and then you tilt the head down a bit, ever so slightly, so that you can comfortably play the flute. This is the head straight, this is a bit down. Make the belly muscles firm, but don't tense them. Okay, this activates the muscles and makes it easier to breathe actively and to control your out-breath. So it basically supports the working of the diaphragm a bit more. Note that when you engage your belly muscles, the muscles at the back are also engaged. They are the antagonistic muscles to the belly muscles, like biceps and triceps. So biceps, triceps in the upper arm. If one contracts, the other expands, and the other way around. Okay, it's the same here with the belly muscles and the muscles at the back. They work together. So this is the basic posture. It is very stable and at the same time very flexible and relaxed. It's easy to move around while at the same time being firmly grounded. Okay, so I can play, I can move around a bit, musical expression, things like that. Okay, but at the same time, I'm not, if I stand like this, it's easier to keep my, it's more difficult to keep my balance if I just stand like this. Okay. Here in this video, I'm looking at posture, so I won't talk too much about how to hold the shakuhachi, but of course the two issues are connected. So just quickly, here are some pointers on how to hold the instrument. You support the flute with the lower thumb. This is usually the right hand, it can be the left, depending on which way around you play. and the chin. This is where the where the weight of the flute rests. Okay, these 2 points. The upper thumb must move freely because we use this for the back hole. The middle fingers are always down on the flute. Yeah, we only have 5 holes, so we don't need the middle fingers. If you have these middle fingers down, this prevents the flute from rolling from side to side and stabilizes it. But they should rest simply on the flute and not grip it. Okay, so if you grip even just a bit, this creates tension. You probably won't notice it immediately, but if you practice for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, your lower arms, where the muscles that move your fingers are located, they will start to hurt. Okay, so don't grip here. This is a very common thing that people do. Elbows should be lifted a bit so that you can move around freely. Don't overdo it, then you often have this problem with the shoulders, or if you bring them to your upper body, this restricts movement. Okay, so just having them out a bit, this is a good position. Now let's look at sitting. When you sit at the front of a chair or about halfway down the seat. Maybe like this. Chairs, however, often have a backward slope, which makes it difficult to tilt your hip forward and sit upright. So like this chair, I would sit like this, and sitting like this is quite awkward. And my buttocks are actually not touching the seat anymore. This is the reason why musicians often sit at the very front of such chairs. This is not just true for wind instrument players, but if you look at an orchestra, violinists or cellists, for example, everybody else probably will do the same thing. If you can, place your feet flat on the ground in front of you. This is the best option. However, I usually find that chairs are too low. I'm not super tall, but on most chairs, if I place my feet flat on the ground like this, my hips go back and I cannot comfortably sit upright. So I often pull my feet back like this. The main point about sitting on a chair is that the hips should be higher than the knees. Okay, this way you can tilt your hips forward slightly, otherwise it's very difficult. Yeah? You almost automatically lean back if the knees are high. And then finally, let's look at kneeling. Seiza is a formal traditional way of kneeling on the floor in Japan. It's easy to do, just kneel on the floor and sit on your heels. This is actually an excellent way of finding a good posture for your hips and back. You will almost automatically have a good posture. However, if you're not used to it, seiza is hard on your legs, on your knees, on your heels, so take care not to overdo it. If you want to sit in seiza longer, you can use a seiza bench or simply put a cushion between your buttocks and heels to reduce the pressure a bit, or maybe an even slightly bigger cushion than I have here. Or maybe you can find a low meditation bench that works for you. There's not really much more to say about seiza, but let me emphasize again that it's an excellent way for playing shakuhachi and understanding what I'm talking about in this video. So, playing like this. Yeah, shoulders relaxed, hips in a very nice position. You're almost automatically sitting upright. Similar to kneeling in seiza is sitting cross-legged. Since shakuhachi is often associated with Zen practice, some people like a meditation posture like lotus, half lotus, Burmese or something similar. Personally, I don't like it very much playing in this position, but it is possible to do it as long, again, as the hips are higher than the knees, just like when sitting on a chair. So far, we have looked at things to do, so now let's look at a few things to avoid. Don't tilt the hips forward too much. This curves the lower back too much, like this, and creates some tightness and tension. Yeah, I can feel it here in the muscles at the back. Don't lean back. This creates tension in your belly or hara, so that's a bad idea too. Don't lean against anything. Back, side, yeah, so leaning to the side against the wall or something like that when you're standing, or backrest when you're on a chair. This creates similar problems as when leaning back. Don't overstretch. I said this earlier already. This restricts movement. Okay, so if you overstretch like this, this gets very difficult to move around. Don't lift the elbows too much. This creates tension, usually up here. Don't bring the elbows to touch your upper body. This restricts movement. Okay, so especially for musical expression, this makes it much more difficult playing nicely. Don't tense the shoulder. Yeah, which is usually the first thing that happens when you get nervous, like when you perform for an audience or for your teacher, right? So this is a very typical thing to do. Don't pull up the shoulders. This easily happens when you lift the elbows a bit, and also, of course, causes tension here, especially these muscles here. They will get sore very quickly. And the final thing, don't push the air out by tensing the belly muscles too much, okay? So don't do this. A blow on the shakuhachi is really just a normal out breath. It's just that you're holding a flute to your lips instead of just breathing out. But it's really just... Okay. So, to recap. Posture affects your playing. A bad posture may even lead to health problems. The two things to look out for are that you should be able to breathe freely and that you don't create any tension. And the main thing to do is slightly tilt your hips forward, like in this position here, and have an upright spine. Okay? Always observe yourself. If you notice any tension anywhere, try to find a way to relax these tensed muscles. Okay? This will always cause problems if you have tension somewhere. And finally, as a parting thought, here I just have been talking about posture for playing shakuhachi, but it helps to see posture not just as an isolated thing you do when playing shakuhachi and walk around slouching the rest of the day. If you take these ideas and also apply them to your everyday posture, it will help with your shakuhachi playing as well as with developing a healthier posture overall. If you already have a good posture, then picking up the flute and playing is just easier, rather than if you have to get into a certain way of holding yourself when you play shakuhachi. As always, thanks for watching, and please leave a comment if these ideas are useful or if you have other ideas or experiences. Also, please, of course, as always, this is YouTube, please like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!